Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I am playing around with Conte crayons. This is something I had used in college in some of our life drawing and painting classes alongside charcoal, mainly kind of just for the white highlights and experimenting with the red, etc. Definitely not using it to its full effect whenever I had these. So today, I'm looking at it as kind of a medium of its own, exploring erasures, exploring application of water, and just having fun with it. So I have a piece of the Stonehenge drawing paper, or just the Stonehenge paper, which is 90-pound paper. It's toned. You can really see it if I put the blue strip next to it, or kind of the cream strip. I think this is the gray. I think they have multiple grays. I had ordered this paper when I was doing a lot of pen and ink sketches. I just don't know the exact color, unfortunately. That being said, I'm going to jump into it and explore it. I have it marked out to 5x7 on the inside. It's 8x10 on the outside. There's a compositional shape that I've been playing around with. Just a simple kind of tree mass, kind of receding back with an S-shaped composition, a foreground landscape element. I've just been focusing on this one. The other day, and I think I've done this one before, but then I had the epiphany, which I'm sure it's not much of an epiphany, but I had the idea, well, I could have my rolling hills back here, or in other situations I can switch them to rolling trees receding. I could have this as a mountain, or I could switch this to a closer tree group where the subject matter is changing, but the compositional element is literally exactly the same thing. So kind of wanted to play around with that idea. Hopefully it doesn't get too boring in the videos. What else? Sorry if I'm umming a whole bunch. I've been exploring master paintings, where I've been doing sketches of them in watercolor and gouache, which has been quite fun, and I feel like I'm learning a lot of different techniques from them. There is kind of that self-consciousness that's there, where obviously I'm working from a master painting, and I am doing it in a short period of time, just seeing just tonal values, compositional shapes, brush strokes, use of color, etc. But whenever you're looking at a master painting, if you were to sit there and do a sketch of the Mona Lisa, my sketch would never hold a candle to the Mona Lisa. Honestly, if I ever sat there and tried to paint it my whole life, it never would. But you got to take it at the value of learning. So this is the brown. I don't know if it must be French. Bistre. If you know how to pronounce brown in French, if you could type it phonetically in the comments below, let me know. We have the sanguine, which is like the light red oxide, the red ochre. I absolutely love sanguine. There's a series that I had done a few months ago playing around with light red oxide as the main color for tonalist landscape paintings. I'm looking at it as using it as a warmer value. Whenever I look for Conte landscape paintings on Google, you'll get a little bit of stuff from the French Impressionists. It'll be very just one color, a monochromatic, applied to heavily toothed paper. So I really don't know what would be a good application of Conte for landscape. So that's what I'm trying to learn and see if it's viable. By the way, if you know any artists that use the Conte for landscape, let me know in the comments below. I did find one woman who used charcoal for landscape, and she had just absolutely amazing stuff. And her painting sold for like $3 to $4 grand in charcoal, and it was very moody, very tonalist. Eventually, I want to experiment with that with charcoal. So I'm using the black as that tonal buildup. My goal here is to kind of cover the paper a little bit with some marks, and then from there use the water and the brush, kind of smooth things out and see what happens. In the previous introductory video, I explored erasures and other marks. So let's see. I have this flat R&L brush. One thing that I did find was that some of the marks will remain and some will loosen up and spread about. I do know that you can use the toned paper as one of your values. Here's my white in here. And I think we used toned paper once or twice in like an introductory art drawing class. It's something I should have used a lot more of to really learn. Creating that edge there for the distant. Another part of these experiments is to see how much this paper can hold up. There's different brand pastel papers. I haven't looked too much into them. If you have, let me know down below. But I had this on hand, and it's 100% cotton, and I always kind of like just using cotton. Let's see. There's sketchbooks that'll have the toned paper. I feel like I might be a little cramped in one of those, especially for one of these exploratory videos. So essentially, kind of to sum up what I'm just trying right now, is just massing in, blocking in my compositional shapes. Now, erasure on the wet Stonehenge drawing paper will lead to the pilling and the destruction of the paper very quickly, so I'm going to avoid that. So I'm going to do a dry off and we'll do another layer on top. So let me pause the camera and we'll go to the next step. Okay, I will point out that if you are looking for something for traveling, the matchbook is obviously very small. If you have a few cuts of paper, if you have something to lean on, maybe a box to put it in, or maybe that's where the drawing pad would work and help out. Get a small little something to carry water in. I've been playing around with the empty 35mm film canisters, and they actually hold water pretty well. So if you have some, or if you could find some, that might work. if you're looking to go out and about. That and you know, a cheaper end brush. I did play around with one of the mini misters. In fact, I'll probably use that in this one, and we'll see how we can kind of spray on the paper and just spread around. One of the things I've been just thinking about and looking at lately are clouds, where about a month or two ago I had done a watercolor painting, completed one, and I used the light red oxide, the raw sienna, in the sky. Got a nice glowing effect, and Joe Menza said, "Yeah, that's really nice." You know, we were talking about it, and he then asked, "But you know, can you repeat it? Is it repeatable?" So I've been looking at skies quite a bit. I never really went back and tried to repeat that. I think I then went into my exploration of master paintings. And I started looking at their skies and was thinking how I could emulate that in watercolor and gouache. And now it has me thinking how you can try to emulate that in Conte. In charcoal, in a whole bunch of different things. So just passing that around. I think this would be a very easy travelable item. I believe I have a eraser shield. Let me see if I can find that. Let me pause the camera real quick. Unfortunately, I can't find it, but I can use the flat edge right here and try to erase. So the eraser shield will kind of a little piece of flimsy metal that I'm pretty sure the use is just to put on top and erase over that spot. Let's see. Build up the cloud. Bless you, Hammy. Hammy's had the sniffles. I think everybody's been having the sniffles, to be honest. Kind of just using these erasers to smear a little bit. They do erase. Just the drawing mediums just make so much of a mess within a studio, and being that I work in such a small little art room, I don't have too much liberty with making a huge mess. And so far the erasure in general, just the action of erasing, has been working well with these sketches. Let's jump back into the brush just to see how many washes this can handle, and at what point does the paper say enough is enough. I was reading that people will use watercolor paper for charcoal and Conte and pastel, and I guess that you know, because of the tooth and the texture. There's probably also a measure of it being able to withstand aggressive mark making and going back and forth. Okay, so let's see. I want to try trees and mark making in that regard. My paper is wet. I'm going to pause and I'll do another dry off real quick. Let's do a light source. Let's see. Create a super white area. Have light come out. And we'll catch our edges here. Which is contrary to what I've been trying to do from the master studies. But working in just 3 or 4 colors, plus the tone of the paper, I think it's acceptable to add this white here. I might have made one of those comments just now that kind of just don't make sense in the moment, like kind of need to give you a little bit of background. I'm going to grab some black while I do that. So, reading a lot of Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, is his theory of angles, the catching of light, and what have you, and looking at some of the master painters from the 1800s and their more developed paintings, where sketches would have the light white right there, while a master painting would have just a light tonal value with a little bit color in it rather than just pure white. So that is just something I've been trying to be a little bit aware of. I am definitely not opposed to using white in any and all landscape paintings, but it's just something that I'm trying to adopt into my bag of tricks in my approach. What I'm doing here is building up my darker tonal value in the foreground, since I have a dark midground where the same colors in both locations. So I'm just trying to make this one more pow in your face to create that sense of depth there. I was going to dry off before I started adding in a tree, but I think I'll just kind of go into it. With trees, I've been trying to be more aware of the light and the dark within the foliage, meaning your larger groups, your inner masses are generally going to be darker, and the smaller groups, the edges, they're going to have some light passing through or catching some light, and will have a glow aspect to it. I was recently looking at some TC steel paintings, and that was just very, very apparent within his work. So it's just been something in my mind. Also looking for ways to add small thin lines for expressionistic, impressionistic branches. Let's grab the sanguine, so that'll jump forward in the picture plane, and that'll give that glowing edge that I'm kind of describing, but so far not achieving. I think one time I lived in Lafayette and I was doing my alternative certification become a teacher. I was taking art classes at college as well. I'm actually, certified to be an art teacher with the extra credits that I had gotten through that. But had a camellia tree, I think, out front in the place that I was renting. I had done a really pretty lifelike drawing of the trunks and everything coming out of it. That was around the time where we were using a lot of the charcoal and Conte and chalk. That would be 2000, early 2010, I think. We're 2022. And there's a lot you can do with this. And I think you can really explore just the drawing mark making, where you could play around with cross hatching, you could play around with kind of just going with the textural direction of objects. I probably had bought this pack. It doesn't have the wrapper on it, but if it had the wrapper on it, I bet it would say University of Louisiana at Lafayette, the school bookstore. This is where I probably bought this. In fact, I found this. Yep, I found this, which was a Crayons, which is very similar. And it says on the wrapper, University Bookstore, Lafayette, Louisiana. I wonder how much I bought this. $1.29. I wonder how much they are now. Probably about like $2 or $3. This is going to be such a fun summer. I am looking forward to all of the art. And I hope y'all are too. Hammy is, right, Hammy? And of course, you're always welcome to follow along. I know some of these are probably kind of all over the place, very exploratory, but you are more than welcome to follow along. And if you do, you're more than welcome to sign your own name to it. I want you guys to be successful, to have fun, and to have money for art supplies. If you want to sell it, you have my express permission to sell anything that you do following any of my tutorials or any of my videos. If you want to support, you can like, subscribe, pick up something from my Etsy store. Pretty cheap on there. I mailed out some paintings today that went up in price. It was like $14 for the UPS mail tuber. And I sell the paintings for about $50 to $80 on Etsy, so they're pretty well priced. And I have the Patreon if you want to donate in other ways. I want to try thin lines for tree trunks. So I'm going to try to just use the flatter edge. See if we can just put a little bit of tree grouping here. A little bit darker underside. If you look up Conte crayons, you'll see the history of them. And they pride themselves on some of the famous artists that use them, and rightfully so. I mentioned longboarding earlier, but it goes for any hobby where you have the hobby that you might be doing. I'll use tea drinking. There's a guy that I buy tea from. He imports it from China, different areas, and he kind of curates and goes through and sees what different types of teas are and tastes what they taste like, and then from there sells them within the United States, Europe, and Canada. And you know, people that do things like that for a hobby really just help the growth. If you're out there inventing a new medium, if you're perfecting charcoal, if you are providing a different paper, kind of like how Legion, the Stonehenge, the black, they make that. It's just all those little things that come together that add to the hobby. The people that make YouTube videos, cough, cough. But hopefully my point's getting across, where all those little things really add up and help create the community and help the art. I'm not too fond of this background guy, so let's see how it is affected with water at this point. Maybe I can reshape them some. Or maybe we could even just pull a little pigment to do another guy right there. We'll see how that dries. I don't think there's really much of a tonal shift, so we'll look for that. I'm going to pause the camera. All right, really no tonal shift when it dries, so that is cool. I am very pleased with this medium. I'm pleased with the paper itself. You can see my fingers where they smeared. I think that's just a side effect of this. Let's put a mat on top just to see what it would look like. I'm enjoying this composition. I'm kind of playing around with this line and the recession, and then experimenting with this recession back. This is just talking about a completely different thing now, where I want to then start playing around with the landscape regression back here and looking at regressions and tracing out linear perspective from it. So that'll be something I'll kind of talk about and explore in future videos. Now it's time to sign this. I'm not sure what to sign it with. Let me do a quick pause and I'll find something. All right, I have this little micron pen that I can use. I have some other drawing and water-soluble media that I've been playing around with. I'm gonna do some videos on that soon. I like how this really falls into the kind of classic traditional colors that were available. I'm really pleased with this. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon. You all have a great day. Bye.